Hi everyone, how are you doing? Welcome to this first episode of the Agile Mind Lab. And we wanted to share with you why change is hard. And we are running a free training for those who are not signed up yet, that is finishing this Sunday. So we wanted to share some ideas of how to develop an Agile Mind, as well as today's topic, which is why it's hard to change. So let's go to the presentation. So the training is course schedule or the free one that we're running is finishing on Sunday, this Sunday night. So you want to sign up, it's completely for free. We have 4 or 5 sessions now, and well, with this one will be fifth. But yeah, so welcome to join. We go, yeah, until Sunday. So why is hard to change? Okay, today we're going to cover why it's hard and how to change. Yeah, so some practical tools that we can use. So why is hard or is change hard? Yeah, and I'm asking you, yeah, what makes change hard for you? Could you reflect for a minute and then we'll see if that applies to you what we're going to share. So the Buddha said that the root of all suffering is attachment. Okay, so that's I think very true because we are attached or we crave good feelings and we detach or we avoid, let's say, bad feelings, right? And then we attach to, oh, this is my thing, this is my house, this is my car. So everything that comes to that link is what causes every suffer, because we think we are losing or missing something. So the most important attachment, I think, is the beliefs about yourself, about your identity. So we're going to share this is the ego, right? How we can detach from this identity. I recently read this book by Adam Grant, Think Again, which presented this thing that I thought was very true, at least for me in my past. So it was the difference between present and past me, yeah, or your present and your past you. So we are attached, okay. We don't differentiate between what we were before and what we are now. So we basically living what we were before. So we are attached. I'm going to give you an example later on. But the point here is that this is a danger zone. Okay, that's why the devil is there. And so what we want is to detach ourselves so we can, let's say, be someone different today that is not linked to our past. So we could have been someone before, but we don't need to be that same person today or in the future. So the thing about here is to rethink and to be available to wonder or to question your previous hold beliefs that are basically holding you back. For me, this was very clear when I resigned for a job that I was doing after working in a consultancy company for almost like 5 years after having a graduate degree of engineering as well as a master degree. So leaving all that past and then becoming an emotional coach, a performance coach for startups and entrepreneurs, you can imagine how it was not easy, because I had to detach myself from what I was. Yeah. And this self of identity or self worth of who I was, it was hard to let it go, basically. So today we're going to discuss a bit more about that. This is the difference between a fixed mindset, a mindset that is stuck, okay, and it doesn't evolve, and your identity is fixed or you think is fixed, um, against to a growth mindset or identity that is fluid, okay, that you will become someone new every year or every week or every day even, right? So it's about not being attached to this ego or identity of self-worth. So who is me, right? Because we are protecting identity from the past that we have built up, all right, that we are now, and we are defending this. So who is me? Yeah. So what you see is what you do. This is given by Professor John Barr. He's an expert in the subconscious mind, in the unconscious mind. He's an author of the book Before You Know It, and he's also a professor in Yale University. Basically, he showed us this picture in the neurochange program that we have taken with him. And it's very clear to see that this child is imitating their grown-ups or their ideal people that or their surroundings, their environment. So the identity that we are protecting, the point I'm trying to make here is that we are a result of our environment, that we were where we grew up. Yeah. So I'm going to show you this history line, fear and mental barriers. Here on the left, we have the past, and here on the right, on the golden point, we have the future, and now is the present. Okay, and I wanted to reflect: what is the now? What is the present? It's actually the real thing that exists. The other things on the past and the future are part of our imagination. And the point I wanted to make here with this slide is that we have 40 to 60 thoughts daily, and according to the research, 90% are focused on the past. So this is big thing because we are constantly reliving things that we cannot change, basically. So let's think about the past and our critical periods because those are the ones that basically has built up this self-identity that maybe is holding us back and is not serving us anymore. It may serve us in the past, but not anymore. So I want to differentiate between old past and early past, and let's see first early past. So the early past is divided in, let's say, two critical periods, which is when your brain, our brain has been developed, and that was taking care of the within 5 to 7 years old when we have most of our brain development because when we come to this world basically our brain is not fully developed and this brain okay and mind okay or the identity or the part of one of the biggest part of the identity that we created is from this few years. Yeah, we didn't have the choice. So we are a result of how we have grown up during these 5 to 7 years, basically with your parents or with your main caregivers, as well as in the culture that you have grown up. And then, of course, the other critical period that psychologists always refer to is the late teens. And so the friends that you have and the way that you behave is another way or another stage where your identity has been created. Yes. And we are like Bob Esponge because when we were kids, 5 to 7 years, we are like a sponge that we don't filter anything and we absorb everything unconsciously and that's why we learn so fast and also our brain and our mind basically gets everything that is in our environment so our environment equals to our beliefs and that's the point of this presentation um, as well as these early critical periods. Now, we have covered this early past. Now let's see the old past that I call, okay? This is all the human primitive brain that we are not aware and it's in our unconscious level. And that's like 300,000 years ago. So it's like 99.99% of our critical periods. So if you thought the early past is influenced your behavior and identity, it did, of course, but this is the one that we share all right? That's why psychology and neuroscience is quite valuable and effective to everybody because we share this ancestor line and all past. So to summarize this history line, basically the early past, 5 years to 7 years old and late teens, so you will be able to understand better what you are defending based on these two critical periods that you have been raised with and that's mostly part of your identity. And then the tribal mindset, which basically is linked with our ego as well, because we used to live in tribes, and if our identity was at risk. Okay, we could have been kicked out from the tribe, and basically we were struggling so much more to survive that because we were going to be in our own, right? So basically that's the point. That's why we are so attached to our identity and what other people think, because that was very important for our survival. Let's continue. So, what this means, right? What is all this history line, the critical periods, the identity that we have built up during so many years? So, is that we have an irrational resistance, really, because it doesn't make any sense that we are protecting something that was built up without our choice, basically, because when we were a child, we didn't have any choice to where to born, or who to have, or who was going to raise us, right? And that's the problem, that we are a result of our environment, meaning that we didn't have a choice to see or to choose this environment where we grew up. And the other point is that that's it, yeah. That the identity that we are protecting is something that we didn't choose, and yeah, and this is something that we have become. So why is hard to change? The main question of this presentation, right? So we have so much to risk, or that's what our mind thinks, that we have so much to risk. Imagine that you have been working, well, in my case, it was 5 years, yeah, but there are people that have been working for the same job for 15, 20, 30 years. So taking that out and do that and change is hard, So living this identity and self-worth uh, is threatened, or is threatening your identity, and that's what makes you avoid it. And also happen with it's not only with work, okay? It happens with diets, with everything. We don't believe that we can change, basically, because we have a self-talk of a self-identity, an idea of who we are. And this is what Adam Grant calls the escalation of commitment, which is sunk cost, basically. That is the psychological part, because there are some costs that are economical, that you have to invest in your education, time, energy, whatever. But the psychological ones are the hardest ones to overcome, in order if we want to change. So we have this rational mind that is all the time self-justifying our prior beliefs. Okay, so this we have confirmation bias, desirability bias, that are shielding our image, our ego, and past decisions. So we are saying, no, I'm doing okay, I'm doing good. Yeah, it's how I am, right? And yeah, basically, we continue to say, gotta stay on track. I like this word that Adam shares in the book, which is talking about his brother that is in this loop of not being able to change careers, even if he feels inside that he wants and he needs to. But after so much commitment and so much investment already done, it's hard. So the self-worth is in danger, yeah, because you don't know what is going to happen. And so we keep thinking, all right, we keep it doing the same, because at least people know who we are, and basically they respect or they accept us as we are now. Now, how to change, yeah, the important part, or how to develop an agile mind, basically. We like to share with you this AA, which is the method that we use and we advise and we preach and we practice as well, because this is a lab. Okay, we like to experiment and do exercises. It's awareness and accountability, and they reinforce each other. Okay, if you do this free course, you will understand better what we mean about this. And let's see awareness. Awareness is what we just done. Okay, is what is coming, all these reactions and all this fear of our, of failure, of being different, of our identity. Yeah, when our identity is in risk, then we are more unlikely to do anything or to change. So it's about the visible life. We see very little, and this is also in line with this history line that I show you, all right, which is like the mind itself, which is like an iceberg, which maybe you are familiarized with. The conscious mind is maybe the early past or the now, okay, what you are aware of, because actually even the early past is part of the subconscious and unconscious, mainly unconscious mind. So we don't know so much, and normally this is according to neuroscience and different sources. Just to have an idea, yeah, the conscious mind like 10%, 50%, and the other remain part, 85 to 90%, is basically unconscious or subconscious level. So we are not aware of it, and that's why we are normally running on automatic mode. So the point is to detach yourself from your ID, your identity, and that's the way. That's the simplest way, I think, to change. Because imagine a diet. Yeah, why people who starts a diet then they get back the same weight, because they are so attached to the past self, to the past behaviors, and to the past habits, that it doesn't matter if in 2 months they do this intermittent fasting or these new things to lose weight so fast. It's because they still think that they are not that new self that they have become, and they go back to their old past, and that's what identity and yourself and how you see yourself it is. So as Yoda say, I love this. You must unlearn what you have learned. Basically what we have been exposed to in our environment that has developed our brain unconsciously is what we want to let go, because it's not serving us anymore. It served us before because we had to survive in this environment when we were kids and we were dependent on our parents, of our caregivers. Now it's not, so now we can choose really, basically, and it's our option, yeah, and our, let's say, right to choose what we want to be. And getting a detached from our identity is helping a lot in that sense. And the other part is accountability, right? So a life only rewards action, and like Einstein says, no action, no change. Well, that's mine. But insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. I suffer a lot about this because I was really egoic, and basically I was too attached to the thing that I have built up, and it's really scary to face or take responsibility of your life and let go something that you thought you were, because when you do that, you basically is like, okay, if I'm not that person that I have built up and I have worked up so much for so long, who am I? And these existential questions is what brings to existential crisis. And it's good, it's tough, it's hard, it's painful, but it's better than not changing all your life. Adam Grant says something like, it's better to have wasted your last 2, 3, 4, 20 years even, than wasting your next 3 or next day. Yeah. So, and this is something that I want you to reflect as well, and we want to reflect is that when we are going to die, we want to see ourselves when we are going to die, right? Because we sometimes live like we're going to live forever, which is not true. And I want to ask you, what do you feel it will be your biggest regret, right? Something that is always there that you never had the courage to do it, and that you were thinking like, maybe one day, maybe one day. Well, maybe that day never gets, or maybe you die before. So this Bronnie Claire, I think is the name. Now it will show up. She studied people basically, of the people of dying, of the wishes of the dying, And the first one was, I wish I had lived a life true to myself and not as expected by others. Because you think about it, you think these early stages or early critical lives or critical periods of our life, that is our identity creation of who our ego comes from, is when or 5 to 7 years, and then the late teens. So in that case, normally we are mostly influenced by our caregivers and our parents. In my case, I studied engineering because of my parents, because of my family, and basically I didn't know what to do. So it sounds okay to follow this. However, it was not something that I really felt that it was right for me. I like it, I enjoy, but there was no my authentic self. It was more what others expected of me. So I would have definitely regret that if I haven't resigned and made that change in my life. And then I wish I had not worked so hard. Nobody in their deathbed, okay, say they wish they could have worked harder. So this is like a reflection also to have a step back and take this opportunity to reflect on who you really are and what you want. Because instead of looking for power, money, recognition, it's better to look for autonomy or authenticity, purpose, meaning, contribution, and connection. I think those are more valuable things, and they are more giving you a self, uh, much bigger satisfaction than what other artificial stuff and what people are trying to sell us, which is this, right? Broniware is the author of this book, and you can see the other three biggest regrets that people die. So I'm invite you again to this free training. People are loving it. I'm sure you will love it as well. It closes this Sunday night because I want people to watch it basically, as well as there is a premium program that is going to start next week. So yeah, take a look. If you have any question, just let me know about this presentation, and feel free to reach out. Okay, and please share in these comments or the comments below about this live video in LinkedIn. What have you gained? All right, what have you gained? What are your main takeaways from this webinar or this live session? And again, these are my contact details. If you want anything, please do let me know. I hope and I wish you live an extraordinary life as always. And yeah, you deserve it and you can earn it. Thank you so much.